जयो राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जना वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जयो राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय गोपी जना वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जना वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदनंदन ब्रज जन रंजना यशोदनंदन ब्रज जन रंजना यमुना तीरा बनचारे यमुना तीरा बनचारे जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय गोपी जना वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी गिरिवरधारी यशोदनंदन ब्रज जन रंजना यशोदनंदन ब्रज जन रंजना यमुना तीरा बनचारे यमुना तीरा बनचारे जयो राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जयो राधा माधव कुंज विहारी कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna जयो राधा वल्लभ राधा वल्लभ श्री राधे जयो कृष्ण बलराम कृष्ण बलराम जयो कृष्ण बलराम जयो राधे श्याम ललिता विशाखादि राधे श्याम जयो जगन्नाथा बलदेवा जयो सुभद्रा Jayo Gauranitai, 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 Jayo Gauranitai. Gauranitai, Jayo Gauranitai, Jayo Jayo Prabhupada, 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 Jayo Jayo Prabhupada. Jayo Jayo Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajaka-acharya Ashtottar Shata Shri Śrīmad. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrind ki jai. Grantaraj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shishi Guru and Gauranga. All glories to His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharani Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshitarini. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhiraye Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatiruttamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. Welcome all of you for today's discussion of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. We are reading from Canto 6, Chapter 12, titled as Vritrasura's Glorious Death. And we are reading from verse number 16. Pashyamam nirjitam shatru vriknayudha bhujam mridhe Ghatamanam yatha shakti tava prana jihirshaya Pashyamam nirjitam shatru Vrikna yudha bhujam mridhe Ghatamanam yatha shakti Tava prana jihirshaya Pashyamam nirjitam shatru Vrikna yudam bhujam mridhe Ghatamanam yatha shakti Tava prana jihirshaya Pashyamam nirjitam shatru Pashyamam nirjitam shatru Vriknayudhabhujam Vridhe Ghatamanam Yatha Shakti Tava Prana Jihirshaya. Mataji. Mataji. Pashyamam nirjitam shatru Vriknayudha mrudhajam vridhe Ghatamanam yatha shakti Pashya, look, Mam, at me, Nirjitam, already defeated, Shatru, O enemy, Vrikna, cut off, Ayudha, my weapon, Bhujam, and my arm, Mridhe, in this fight, Ghatamanam, still trying, Yatha Shakti, according to my ability, Tava, of you, Prana, the life, Jihirshaya, with the desire to take away. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. O my enemy, just look at me. I have already been defeated, for my weapon and arm have been cut to pieces. You have already overwhelmed me, but nonetheless, with the desire to kill you, I am trying my best to fight. I am not at all morose, even under such adverse conditions. Therefore, you should give up your moroseness and continue fighting. Purport. Vritrasura was so great and powerful that in effect he was acting as the spiritual master of Indra. Although Vritrasura was on the verge of defeat, he was not at all affected. He knew that he was going to be defeated by Indra and he voluntarily accepted that. But since he was supposed to be Indra's enemy, he tried his best to kill Indra. Thus he performed his duty. One must perform his duty under all circumstances, even though one may know what the result will be. Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishna Vamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakham Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा, श्री अद्वैता गदाधरा श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। यं प्रव्रजन्तम् अनुपेतमनुपेतकृत्यं, द्वैपायन विरह कातर आजुहावा। पुत्रेति तन्मयतया तरवोऽभिनेदु, स्थं सर्वभूतहृदयं मुनिमानतोऽस्मि। Hare Krishna. So we are reading from the glorious pastime of Vritrasura, the demon Vritrasura. Pashyamam nirjitam shatru vriknayudha bhujam mridhe, ghatamanam yatha shakti tava prana jihirshaya. So Vritrasura is provoking Indra to kill him. It's quite interesting. This reminds us of nice Bollywood movies where the hero and the villain is fighting. Maar do mujhe, you see, you'll see these famous scenes. But there is a vast difference between what we see in the movies and what is the consciousness of Vritrasura here. We will try to understand that today. And just to observe the Sanskrit also, Pashya, Pashya means to look at, to see. Mam, to look at me. Nirjitam. Nirjitam means, jita means to win. Nirjitam means to the opposite of it, already defeated. Shatru, you all know. Vrikna yudha is, vrikna means to cut. Ayudha means weapon. Now Sanskrit is very interesting language because ayu means age, life. Dha means one which cuts it off. So ayu dha, that's what weapon means. Weapon is one which reduces the life. Bhujam ridhe ghatamanam yatha shakti tava prana jihirshaya. So this section we are seeing this section, the fight between Indradev, the Devatas, and Vritrasura. It is a pastime to teach us the difference between unalloyed devotion and Mishra Bhakti, which is alloyed devotion. What is that? Unalloyed devotion means, what is the definition of unalloyed devotion that Rupa Goswami gives us in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu? Anya bilashita shunyam jnana karmadi anavritam anukulena krishnanushilanam bhaktiruttama. Anya bilashita shunyam. To not have any desire for oneself. That is the pure definition of, that is the definition of pure bhakti. Unalloyed. Unalloyed means in thought, words, deeds, intention, there is only one thing, that is to please Krishna alone. There is no pleasing of the self there. Not only that, jnana karma anavritam. Jnana karmadi anavritam means one doesn't have intention to also attain knowledge. Prabhupada explains in one of the purports that the gopis were not even interested to know about Krishna. They just wanted to love Krishna. Even having an intention to know about Krishna also is rejected in one sense. So even the tinge of knowing Krishna also is rejected. That was quite interesting. Prabhupada writes it in the purport. Because gopis know that no matter who is Krishna, whether he is supreme or whether he is just a cowherd boy, we just love him unconditionally. So the pure definition of pure bhakti is unconditional love for Krishna. So in this section we see Bhagavatam presents us the consciousness of two devotees. One is who is alloyed, he is attached to his position, Indradev, and then one who is not attached, one who is always in a liberated state of consciousness, which is Vritrasura. In fact, in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 131, even in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Shuddha Sattva Visheshatma Prema Suryamshu Samya Bhag Ruchischittam Ashranya kridasau bhava uchyate. Shuddha Sattva Visheshatma. And this pure devotional service can only be performed in Shuddha Sattva. Means what? One who is beyond the three modes of material nature. Otherwise, one cannot perform pure devotional service if he is still mixed, if he is still under the modes of material nature. Why is that? What mode of material mode was Indra under? Passion. He was under passion. Why? How do we say he's under passion? Huh? Because he has pride. What is another symptom of passion? Another symptom of passion is desire. I have desires. Whenever I have desires, what desires? Material desires. As long as we are driven by passion, we will be driven by material. Kama esha, krodha esha, rajo guna samudbhavaha. Rajas means mode of passion. Mode of passion gives rise to what? Kama and krodha. Sama udbhavaha. Sama udbhavaha means they give rise to, mode of passion gives rise to desire and anger. Anger is when the desire doesn't get fulfilled or it doesn't satisfy him. Yeah. And lust means intense desire. Kama means intense desire. And in here we see Indradev's intense desire is to protect his kingdom because he's attached to the concept of being a king. And this is my kingdom. And these are my subjects. I need to protect them. So along with that, what comes there? Proprietorship comes there. So I am the king, you see. So this is all a vicious cycle of Rajoguna. And if you see Vritrasura is almost, if you see his state of consciousness, he's just fearless. And why is he fearless? We will actually see what led him to the state of this fearlessness. Who was Vritrasura in his past life? Chitraketu. But was there a state of Chitraketu where he was completely fearful and lamenting? When was that? Correct, when his son passed away. First of all, he did not have sons. He had 1,000,000 wives. He still didn't have a son. When he had a son, when his son passed away, he started lamenting. You see, he was lamenting. What a state he was in that form of life. And then what a state he is now. See the difference. The same entity, of course, across two lifetimes. But what led him here? What led him to this fearlessness, stage of fearlessness? Shelter to? Through whom? Shelter to Sankarshan, Lord Sankarshan. By how? How did he take the shelter of Lord Sankarshan?
By prayers, surrender.
Surrender to whom?
Lord.
Through whom? Through the spiritual master. Ashraya Tattva means Guru. Because Chitraketu had been given the great benediction of, who was his Guru? There were two rishis who come to help him when Chitraketu was lamenting. And? Correct. Angira Muni and Narada Rishi. So it was the apara karuna of these two devotees, exalted personalities, that Chitraketu could come to that consciousness actually. So we have to understand, unalloyed bhakti, anyabhilashita shunyam cannot come by our endeavor. Because why cannot it come by our endeavor? Of course, our endeavor should be there, but why it cannot be obtained merely by our endeavor?
Mercy is essential.
Why is mercy essential? Because Shuddha Bhakti is beyond the three modes of material nature. So my activities cannot solicit Shuddha Bhakti so easily. It has to be, because I am a Tatastha Shakti. I am not a Antaranga Shakti of a Lord as a Jiva. So Bhakti is a realm of the Antaranga Shakti. Tatastha Shakti is in the middle layer. So how can it access something which is beyond its Shakti? So it has to come top down. It cannot be accessed. I cannot go and do my sadhana and access Bhakti which is beyond my reach. So it has to come top down from someone who has access to Shuddha Bhakti. Who is that? Who exists in Shuddha Sattva. That is the pure devotees or the unalloyed devotees of the Lord. So in this case, Chitraketu was able to access that through the mercy of his spiritual master. In this case, it was Narada Muni and Angira Rishi. And therefore, he came from that consciousness of lamenting for his son to practically deathlessness. He was not afraid of death. In fact, his whole body was a disgust for him. He just wanted to get out of this material body and go back home, back to Godhead to serve Krishna. Because for a jiva, that is the state. For a jiva, this body is a disgust, actually, because a spirit is meant to be free. It is not meant to be bound in this 5 elements of material nature. It needs to be free. So therefore, he was not attached to this body. In fact, when one reaches this stage of, and it's quite interesting, this stage of pure devotee or pure consciousness is quite interesting because nothing disturbs them. We see in the stage of, last stages of Srila Prabhupada, when he was about to wind up his pastimes, he was not disturbed even for a second on the deathbed. When he was there lying down, even in that state, he was translating Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. He was undisturbed. And the Vaidya, the doctor said, any person in this consciousness should be suffering with intense pain. And there was not even a tinge of expression of pain on Prabhupada's face. So that was his state of consciousness. And it's quite interesting as sadhakas, we need to understand what can it be like? What can it be like to be in that state of consciousness? But there is a catch. You have to understand, sometimes you will see terrorists are also not afraid of death. Is it not? Will go, suicide bomber will press a button. He kills himself and kills so many other innocent people. Is there a difference between that person who is not afraid of death in killing himself and everyone, and when compared to a devotee who is in a pure state of consciousness? He's also not afraid of death. So what's the difference? What's the difference? Is there a difference at all? What is the difference? Both are not afraid of death. For a good cause, something even better than that. It's not even a good cause. He just wants to be with Krishna. Not even good. Only God is good. So the difference is this person is executing his death in anger. So there is still anger. Kama esha krodha esha rajoguna samudbhavaha. But for a person in Shuddha Sattvam, it doesn't matter whether he's in this body or in the next. He's always Jivan Mukta. This material body is just a outer covering. He's not at all, we will see as the chapter proceeds. Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura gives a splendid explanation of what happens to Vritrasura. Because we were discussing this in the last class also. When Parikshit Maharaj was bitten by snake Takshaka, Parikshit Maharaj already left his body. He was already in a trance. So this body has nothing to do with the spirit soul, which is free anyways. So when devotees are in such state of consciousness, this material body cannot bind them. So that is the difference between a terrorist and someone who is fearless in case of, who is Abhayacharana. Abhayacharana means who has taken to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. For such devotees, the devotion to Krishna flows uninterrupted. What does that mean? The Shastras gives many examples. Tailadhare. You know, Tailadhare means when you pour oil, thick oil, how does it flow from a bottle? Continuous. It doesn't flow by intermittent. It just flows continuously. In the same way, honey. When you pour thick honey, you just have to interrupt it. The way to interrupt is you have to pick the bottle up. Otherwise, it will keep on flowing continuously. So, bhakti should flow like that, uninterrupted. In the 3rd canto, Kapila Deva instructs this to his mother Devahuti. Mad guna shruti matrena mai sarva guhashaya manogatir avichinna yato yatha gangam basom budhav. Mad guna shruti matrena mai sarva guhashaya manogatir avichinna. Kapila Muni says the pure definition of pure devotional service is manogatir avichinna. Chinna means what? Chinna means to break. Avichinna means that which is unbreakable or uninterrupted. That devotion where someone's mind, manogati means destination, whose mind reaches the destination uninterrupted. How? Mad gati shruti matrena, mad guna shruti matrena. Hearing by pastimes, hearing my glories, such a mind never gets uninterrupted and constantly flows towards me. That is the definition of pure devotional service. This is the instruction he gives to his mother. Lakshanam bhakti yogasya. This is the definition of bhakti yoga. What is the Lakshanam? Yatha Gangambusam Bhuda. Means when Ganga flows from the Himalayas, if you really see, Himalayas is on the almost like the top left corner of the India, and then Ganga flows all the way towards the ocean, towards the right hand side when it goes and joins the ocean near the Bay of Bengal. It's uninterrupted, nothing can stop it. Ganga just flows. In the same way, bhakti should flow towards Krishna uninterrupted. What do you mean by uninterrupted? Uninterrupted means interruption due to karma, due to jnana, due to my selfish desires, mixing it with many fruitive activities. So it should not be mixed. It is uninterrupted. Lakshanam bhakti yogasya nirgunasya hi udahritam ahaituki avyavihata ya bhakti purushottame. So ahaituki, nirgunasya hi udahritam means it should not be tinged with any other modes like mode of passion, mode of goodness, mode of, as Hare was saying, to do good. That is also not there. There is no mode of goodness also. It is only Shuddha Sattvam, Vishuddha Sattvam. So that is the definition of pure definition. Sometimes, we were discussing in the last session also, sometimes when we come to devotional service, we think devotional service will give us peace of mind. Devotees don't even think that. The only intention is, may this be pleasing to Krishna. May this be pleasing to Krishna. The gopis were ready to put their foot on the forehead of Krishna because they wanted to help Krishna to get rid of the headache. You all know the pastime? So that means their only intention is to serve Krishna with love. They don't mind even going to hell for it. So such is the desire of the gopis. So therefore, this section of Bhagavatam, that's why Bhagavatam is unconditional when it tries to lay out the purport of the Vedas in front of us. Because Vedas, sometimes you have to mix good karma, bad karma and all of that when you study the Vedas. But Bhagavatam delineates all of that and gives us pure devotional service. In fact, if you see Bhagavad Gita, what is the final instruction of Krishna in Bhagavad Gita? Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo moksha ishyami ma suchaha. So, what is Krishna saying here to Arjuna? Abandon all varieties of religion and surrender unto me. But what did Arjuna do after that? Did he start chanting? Okay, Krishna, I'll take out my bead bag and start chanting. What did he do? Correct. He picked up his dhanush and started fighting. Is there a contradiction? Do you see a contradiction or not? Didn't Krishna just now say Sarva Dharman Parityaja? But now Arjuna picked up his bow and fighting. He is fighting, so he is following his Kshatriya Dharma. But Krishna just now said Sarva Dharman Parityaja. So how do you bring an understanding with that? Is he following Krishna's instructions or not? Yes. So then how do we bring that understanding that he has still not, he's still doing pure devotional service by fighting in the war of Kurukshetra? How is that? He's following his Kshatriya Dharma. But how do you understand when Krishna says Sarva Dharman Parityaja then? If that was the last instruction of Krishna. Correct. So the last verse, Krishna means abandon all varieties of religion, means the crux of that verse is Mam ekam sharanam vraja. Abandon varieties of religion does not mean you don't do anything. Abandoning religion means do not take the shelter of religion. Take shelter of me. Me alone, Krishna says, while executing your duties. That is what the whole purport of Bhagavad Gita is. Sometimes we tend to take Bhagavad Gita in sections. Oh, Krishna has now spoken about Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is not required. Now only Bhakti Yoga is required. Sometimes it is called Ardha Kakoti Nyaya. Krishna will never say something that is not eternal. Because Lord cannot give us something which is not eternal. So as devotees, we need to understand everything in totality. So therefore, Arjuna picked up his bow and fought his Kshatriya Dharma, but by surrendering to Krishna. This is the crux of Bhagavad Gita. To do what you have to do as your prescribed duties, but do it in full surrender to Krishna. Just as Arjuna, just as Yudhishthira Maharaj, just as the gopis were householders. Think about it. They were householders. Yet when they want to meet Krishna, they will cross everything and go and meet Krishna. So therefore, sometimes it's very confusing because should we do our prescribed duties or should we abandon them and just do bhakti? But seeing bhakti something outside prescribed duties also is wrong in certain sense. So if we are in a certain varna and ashrama, you have to do your duties, and while doing your duties, you have to do bhakti. And what is the tenet of doing that bhakti? Surrender, sharanagati. You have to give yourself. That is why we have to understand this. Let's understand this by some examples. In this pastime, who was responsible for Vritrasura's death? Who was behind Vritrasura's death? Of course, it's the Lord. But how was he killed? With whose help? Dadichi. Is it not? Dadichi's bones. You know, when the devatas approach Dadichi, they say, we need your bones. And Dadichi laughs. He says, do you know how painful it will be for me? But yet he executes that instruction. You know how, we've read that section. You know, he smears milk and yogurt on his, and allows the cow to lick him until only bones remain. And then the bones will be given to the devatas. Is that not a good act? It is a good act, isn't it? But is it classified as bhakti? We didn't classify Dadichi Muni's sacrifice as bhakti, did we? We did not. Is it not? Although he followed the instructions, he did that. But there is a catch. The acharyas don't classify it as bhakti because he did that for a good cause, to help the devatas. He did not do it to please the Supreme Lord. So there is no element of Shuddha Bhakti there. So therefore, the sacrifice of Dadichi was not classified as bhakti per se. That is why the acharyas delineate all this good karma, sat karma, from anyabhilashita karma, which there is no abhilasha. The only Krishnanushilanam, only to please Krishna. Let's take another example. Now, if you take the example of Maharaj Shibhi, you know Shibhi Maharaj? Shibhi Maharaj was a very pious king, and looking at him, Indra again got jealous. He said, oh, this guy is going to take my position again. So he wanted to test him. What did Indra do? He and Dharmaraj tried to cheat him or trick him. They come as a bird, and Indra comes as an eagle, and then they attack the bird, and Maharaj Shibhi says, don't attack the pigeon, I'll give my flesh to you. And he starts offering his own flesh to eagle or to vulture. He comes to the point of even killing himself, you see, Shibhi Maharaj, right? He's killing himself to protect a bird. Yet, this sort of a great sacrifice is not classified as bhakti. So you will see such great stories. Now you will see, there's another famous story in Mahabharata, the episode of Ekalavya. Have you all heard of Ekalavya? Is he a great personality or not? You all know Ekalavya? Okay, just for those who do not know, Dronacharya is one of the best military teachers of those times. Okay, and in fact, we can say the whole Mahabharata, reason of Mahabharata was for one reason. You know who was that reason? The reason was Dronacharya. It was him who caused the Mahabharata, or in one sense. Because he is the one who taught the Kauravas and the Pandavas. Dronacharya is in his Gurukul teaching the Pandavas and the Kauravas. Right then, there is a boy who approaches Dronacharya and he says, I want to take training from you. Dronacharya asks him, who is your father? And when Ekalavya states his father, Dronacharya says, I can't teach you. Please go away. This guy's name was Ekalavya. So what did he do? He created a deity of Dronacharya. He created a deity and started practicing the archery. He created a deity and then he worshipped the deity as his guru and started practicing archery. So much so to that extent that he was he became one of the best archers in the world. He almost surpassed Arjuna also. How did they know? When the Pandavas were practicing, there was a dog barking nearby. And then after a while, the dog stopped barking. So the Pandavas observed the dog's mouth was open and the whole mouth of the dog were filled with arrows. There was no bleeding, but the arrows were shot in such a way that the dog couldn't bark. And only a very expert archer can do this. Arjuna observes this and he notices that it is Ekalavya who's done it. So Arjuna goes and conveys this message to Dronacharya to say, you had suggested that I'll be one of the best archers in the world, but looks like there's someone better than me. Generally, when people read this story, they think Ekalavya was a great personality. But we will see why he is not a great personality. In fact, who killed Ekalavya? Ekalavya was killed in the war. Who killed him? It was Lord Krishna himself with his chakra. His head was chopped off. Why we will see. Dronacharya then realizes that Ekalavya was practicing archery, keeping his deity without his permission. He goes and asks for Guru Dakshina. What is Dakshina he asks for? Now you have taken training in my name, you need to give me something to the Guru. So he says, you need to give me your thumb, because for an archer, a thumb is very important. To hold the bow and hold the arrow, you need the thumb. Without the thumb, it's very difficult. So Ekalavya, without a moment of hesitation, cuts off his thumb and gives it to his Guru. Many movies have come on this. Many people name their children Ekalavya without knowing what kind of a personality he was. The Acharyas say, why I'm bringing up this story is to understand, there are two reasons to understand. One is Guru Avahelana. So this is all started because of disrespecting the Guru, because Indradev disrespected the Guru. So first thing. Second thing, trying to become a better than a Vaishnava. If you see a Vaishnava, envy of a Vaishnava is very dangerous. So this story is telling us two things. Envy of a Vaishnava. Who is a Vaishnava? Who is a Vaishnava and who is envious of a Vaishnava in this story? Arjuna is the Vaishnava. And Ekalavya was envious of Arjuna. He wanted to become better than Arjuna. Okay? So, when he cut off his thumb, he continued to practice and he still was a very good archer, Ekalavya. So when people read this story, they name their children also as Ekalavya, thinking that he's a very great personality. He could do without the thumb also. He could fight without the thumb. But if you really observe, when Ekalavya approached Dronacharya, why did Dronacharya deny teaching this guy? Many people say he denied him because he was a Shudra. He was from a lower class of society. That's why he was not taught. Because Dronacharya said, this is only for the upper class. I will not teach you. But that is wrong. The caste and class has nothing to do with it. The class and class, why Dronacharya rejected is because of Ekalavya's consciousness. He was having a what? A terrorist mindset. So therefore, when he saw that mindset, because there are certain aspects in the mindset that a guru can see through. So therefore, he said, you are not fit for this vidya, so I will not teach you this vidya. It was not because he was from a lower caste. So this, many times you will not see, because Mahabharata, again, there is a lot of concocted versions of Mahabharata. If someone wants to read original Mahabharata, we have to study Madhvacharya's Tatparya Nirnaya, which he has given a purport on the Mahabharata. So there, Madhvacharya says that this guy, Ekalavya, was Yuddha Chiram Ranamukhe Bhagavat Sutah Asau Chakre Nirayudham Amum Sthiram Ekalavyam Amshena Yobhuvam Agat Maninam Itisma Swakrodha Tantraka Ganeshu Adhipo Nishadaha. He was the Amsha of a demon. He was the Amsha of a demon, Maniman. There was a demon called Manimana. This guy, Ekalavya, was an Amsha of a demon. So therefore, he was killed by Krishna. Therefore, he was not taught by Dronacharya. So in this episode, we see that Ekalavya, when he approached Dronacharya, when Dronacharya said, you are not eligible to learn this vidya, if he was a real Guru Bhakta, if he was real follower of Guru, he should not have done the vidya, because my Guru has said, I am not eligible to learn this vidya, so therefore I will not learn this vidya. That is a real disciple. You getting the point? But what did he do? He did what he wanted to do. And he used the Guru to get what he wanted to do. Makes sense? You see, it's a very subtle aspect. He went and approached Dronacharya. Dronacharya said, no, you should not learn it. But he overrode the Guru's instruction, created the deity of Dronacharya. So he was one of the first Ritviks. You see, created the deity of Dronacharya and started following, practicing in the name of Dronacharya. So therefore, he insulted his Guru. He did not follow the instructions of his guru. So this was Ekalavya. So therefore, Dronacharya is punishing him to take out, because second thing is he was envious of the Vaishnava, Arjuna. He was envious of Arjuna. And someone may also think, why did Arjuna go and complain to Dronacharya? Was Arjuna afraid of Ekalavya? Again, Acharyas say, Arjuna was not afraid of Ekalavya. Arjuna was afraid that this guy has brought ill repute to my guru. Because guru has advised him not to practice, and yet this guy is overriding guru's instructions. So therefore, he addressed this to his guru to say, I think this is not right what he's done. In that way, he approaches his guru. So this episode gives us an example of how many a times when we read Shastras, we get bewildered. Who is good, who is bad? In this case, we see Vritrasura is a demon. So that's why Prabhupada writes in this purport, Vritrasura was so great and powerful that in effect he was acting as the spiritual master of Indra. Vritrasura was in the body of a demon, yet he could instruct Indra, who was a devata. Vritrasura was very ghastly looking, yet he was able to attract the mercy of the Lord. You see? So, it says anyone can be a guru. In the second canto, Shukadeva Goswami says, Kirata Hunandra Pulinda Pulkasha Abhira Shumbha Yavanaha Kashadayah Ye Anyecha Papayad Apashrayashrayah Shuddhyanti Tasmai Prabhavishnave Namaha. That means all of these people, Kirata, Hunandra, Pulinda, Pulakasha, all of these people, in the sense, the lower consciousness. See, the division of caste society in the Vedic system was based on consciousness. It was not based on just because someone is born in a certain family. Because we see Krishna in the 11th canto says that can you name a few devotees who are from the lower cadre of life of the Lord? Sudama, Gajendra, he was an animal. You see Gajendra, Hanuman, Sugriva, Vritrasura, Prahlad Maharaj, Bali. You see Bali, Prahlad Maharaj, they were also demons actually. Yet they are glorified in this Shastra. They are glorified in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Why? Because they are pure devotees of the Lord. Bali and Prahlad Maharaj is one of the Mahajans, is it not? So Mahajanas means what? They are the 12 Pramukha Acharyas of Vaishnava Sampradaya. So therefore, it doesn't matter what body we take. It doesn't matter what body and what birth we take. What it matters is their pure devotional service towards Krishna, their Shuddha Bhakti, their consciousness is only to preach. Krishnanu Sheelanam, Bhakti Ruttama. Their only consciousness is to please Krishna, please the Supreme Lord. And in this case, Vritrasura is always connected to Lord Sankarshana. You know, this has come to him after he takes darshan of Lord Sankarshan. Narad Muni has instructed him on a mantra, he's meditated, he's seen the Lord directly face to face. After that, he's been cursed by Parvati Devi. If you see the chapters, in sequence of chapters, he's cursed after he's taken the darshan of the Lord. So therefore, the Lord has unique ways to finish off his material life. Maybe there was some reminiscent karma that he had to burn. So therefore, by the medium of Parvati Devi, he was cursed, took the body of Vritrasura and went back home, back to Godhead. So therefore, in the last line of the paragraph of the purport, Prabhupada writes, thus he performed his duty, one should perform his duty under all circumstances, even though one may know what the result will be. We see even when, who killed Dronacharya in Mahabharata? Drishtadumna. Whose son was he? Drupada, right? So, actually, the whole Mahabharata started because of the fight between Dronacharya and Drupada. That was the main cause of the fight, if you see. And the Brahmana, who was supposed to live as a Brahmana, Siloncha Vritti. Siloncha Vritti means Dronacharya was living as a Siloncha. See, even for Grihasthas, there are 4 types of Grihasthas explained in the Bhagavatam. Siloncha Vritti means that Grihastha. Have you all been to a rice market sometime? You've gone to this mandi, they say in India. I don't know what we call it as in English, where grains are sold. You know, when you go to a shop like that, After the shops are closed, you will see some grains on the floor. Dronacharya used to collect those grains and survive. That is called Siloncha Vritti. They will go to a market after the market's closed, and when you have those grains spilt on the ground, they will collect those grains and survive only on them. So there are 4 classifications of how grihasthas live. They don't go and work for a salary. One type of grihasthas. They will just live a meager life, very simple life. Because the purpose of society, Vedic society, is only for one thing, for emancipation. Surviving materially is not the goal of Vedic life at all. Material survival happens anyways. You see, animals don't go to a job, you see. Animals don't go to a job, they don't have super fund, they don't have insurance. Yet they live happily. There are animals which live very happily. They are maintained by the universe, they're maintained by the Lord. So Dronacharya was living on Siloncha Vritti. And yet, sometimes his son wanted to drink milk. They didn't have milk. So what mother used to do, she used to grind rice and mix it with water and give him as milk. See, that was the water. And he used to think this was milk. But because the wife chastised him to say, you have such a good friend Drupada, you can't go and beg a cow from him. So that's how he goes out, he gets insulted, and then the whole thing starts. Then to take a revenge, he goes and joins the Pandavas, the Kauravas army, and starts to teach for money. Vetan. So he falls down from the Brahmana to a Vaishya for earning money, Shudra, because he wants salary. And then the whole thing starts. So that is why it's very important to understand the importance of prescribed duties. Kapila Muni, when he's speaking to Devahuti, many a times there is a confusion. What should a devotee do? Whether he should abandon his prescribed duties or whether he should do his prescribed duties. In India, when you see Vedic living, prescribed duties are not abandoned. Although we say gopis abandoned their duties, they ran, Pati Sutanvaya Bhratrabandhavan Ativilanghatenti Achyuta Gataha Gatividastavod Gita Mohita Khitavayoshita Kastya Jenishi. Pati Sutanvaya Bhratr Bandhavan. We have left all of them and come to see you, Krishna, in the Gopi Gita, the gopis sing. Now you are trying to tell us a lot of philosophy, that you should not come and see me. And they chastise Krishna like that, you see. But we also have to understand they left even their tan, man, dhan, even their, chastity. A woman going out in the night, leaving her husband and meeting someone else, it's considered not to be chaste. But even then Gopi did that only for the sake of Krishna. So sometimes it's very confusing to understand. Shall we be like the gopis or shall we follow the prescribed duties? Actually, we have to follow the prescribed duties. The reason is we should not artificially imitate the gopis. If you remember, there were Prabhupada's disciples, when Prabhupada was around, they started forming something called as a Gopi Bhav club. Have you heard of this? In Lilamrita you will see. The devotees started forming Gopi Bhava club. And they started imitating the gopis, that they are gopis or servants of the gopis. Of course, that is the goal. But as long as that does not come spontaneously, we should not artificially imitate it. And that will come by following the prescribed duties, by surrendering oneself to Krishna. Many devotees say, when the Ramananda Raya Samvad happens, Ramananda Raya said, what about doing our prescribed duties and offering our results to Krishna? Yat karosi, yat asnasi, yat juhosi, dadasi, yat. Is that not glorious? It is glorious, but still Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says it's not superior enough. Why is it not superior enough? Why is it not superior enough? Doing activities for Krishna, giving my results to Krishna, that's not superior enough. Why? Because there is a sense of proprietorship. I have done this, so therefore I will give this to Krishna. You see, I still have that aham bhava. Aham mameti, I have done this. But the gopis don't think that I am going to Krishna. This body itself is Krishna's. That's what Bali Maharaj did. Atma nivedanam. The ultimate stage of bhakti is to give oneself to Krishna. If I give myself to Krishna, that's what many of the glorious disciples of Prabhupada did. They gave themselves to Krishna. They didn't build families, they just gave themselves they gave their youth to Krishna, to Srila Prabhupada, sorry. They surrendered themselves to Krishna, you see. So Atma Nivedanam is complete surrender. So therefore Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, doing activities and giving the results to Krishna is still external, because there is still sense of proprietorship. So therefore, simply being a grihastha is not enough. So that is what Prabhupada writes. One must do their prescribed duties under all circumstances, but grihastha ashrama should not be taken because I want some sense gratification. Generally it is given as a discount, but grihastha ashrama should be taken as a matter of duty. If that is done as a duty to please Krishna, then that ashrama becomes glorious. Otherwise it still becomes mishra. Mishra means it's alloyed, because I also have my desires there. I'm producing children because I have sensual desires. So therefore, any section of the society, whether it is grihasthrashrama, vanaprastha-ashrama, sannyasa or brahmacharya, all of this has to be done only for one thing. What is that? Only to please Krishna. Krishnanushilanam, that is called bhaktiruttama. So, and that is what Bhagavad Gita finishes with, to say, abandon all varieties of religion means you do your duty, don't take the shelter of that duty. Many people put their WhatsApp status, work is worship. Work is not worship. Work is only a means to earn a living. It's not worship. Worship is only for Krishna. So therefore, one should not take shelter of any religion. Pitra dharma, matra dharma, kshatriya dharma. Don't take shelter of this dharma. Take shelter, complete shelter of Krishna, but don't abandon the dharma. Continue to execute your dharma if you are in that particular prescribed ashrama. So that's what Prabhupada writes here. So therefore, Indra is doing his duty, and Vritrasura is doing his duty as a demon. He's saying, I'm an asura, I have to fight the devatas, let me fight. You are a devata, you fight me, and just continue to do your duty as an instrument in the hands of Krishna. So like that, where Bhagavad Gita ends, that lays the foundation to enter into Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. The foundation to enter into Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is complete surrender to Krishna. Sarva dharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam vraja. When one takes complete shelter of Krishna, then they can enter into the pastimes of Krishna. Otherwise, one cannot understand the pastimes of Krishna. One can see the gopis were leading their life. Okay, one may say, oh, gopis abandoned everything and went and met Krishna. But when they were in their homes, do you think they had not abandoned their duties? There are two states. One is they went in the middle of the night for the Rasa Yatra to meet Krishna. But when they were inside their homes, do you think they were thinking of Krishna or not? Govinda Damodara Madhaveti, He Krishna, He Yadava, He Sakheti, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. So they were singing. When the parrot comes to their house, they were telling, hey, tell Govinda, hey, say, tell Damodara, tell Sakheti. So they were teaching their children. When they were putting their children to sleep, they did not say, Mera bacha, soja. No, they were saying, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. Their consciousness is flowing to Krishna at all times, always. Whether they are serving their husbands, whether they are doing their duties, whether they are serving their father, whether they are serving their children, their consciousness towards Krishna is always flowing. But they are doing their duties as a grihini. But their consciousness is always connected to Krishna. Not a minute it is disconnected from Krishna. Now this is a very elevated stage of Krishna consciousness. If you see Bhaktivedanta Thakur, he was a grihastha. But that doesn't mean I'm professing to become grihastha, all of you, because there are brahmacharis here as well. So what it means is, no matter which varna, which ashrama we are, our consciousness should flow uninterrupted, avichinna towards Krishna. That is the state of consciousness one needs to attain, because varna and ashrama are only external. So the external should not interrupt my bhakti. It should be ahaituki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. So that is the understanding, and that is the stage of consciousness with which Vritrasura was. That is why he was able to be so abhayam. He was so fearless in that situation, even though his arms was cut. You will see in the next verse, another arm also will be cut. So he's literally like, two arms are not there. You'll see in that Sholay movie, you see, ye haath mujhe de de Thakur. So two arms are not there, and still he's saying, come and fight me. I'm still fighting, and he still continues to fight. So it's a very beautiful pastime, and a lot of lessons are coming out of this pastime. So I'll stop here. I'll just summarize to say we can peek into the consciousness of Vritrasura to make sure we also can have our consciousness flow towards Krishna irrespective of our external circumstances, and not have interruptions in that flow of consciousness in the process of bhakti. So I'll stop here. Is there any questions or comments? Yes, hi Griva. Yes. Yes, it's a good question. Hagriva says, if we see the Lord once, all the karma, moksha ishyami, sarva dharman parityaja mamekam sharan, aham tvam sarva papebhyo moksha ishyami masuchaha. It's a very interesting question, a very nice question. Although the Bhagavatam does not clearly say that if that was a residual karma that Vritrasura had, but coming into the material world, taking a demoniac birth, and having a demoniac body itself could be some remnants of karma. It could be seen like that, externally. But if you see, was Vritrasura lamenting about his birth any time? No. Was he fearful about his birth any time? No. Did he feel sad about the curse, or did he feel sad about Parvati Devi that she cursed him? No. This itself is an example that he is not disturbed. He is already liberated. When he saw the Lord, he is already liberated. So whether he is taking the birth in the hell, whether he is going to hell also, it doesn't matter for a devotee. It doesn't matter. So Prahlad Maharaj was born to Hiranyakashipu. He say, why was I born to my father, Baba? I should have been born in Devaloka. Did Prahlad Maharaj think like that? No. So for a devotee, he's not bothered, because external circumstances does not, he cares a fig for it. I don't care. Even if I'm born in hell, I don't care. Haridas Thakur, he was born in the Mohammedan family. Yet he is our Namacharya is a Mohammedan, if you really think like that. You see? So, for a devotee, like, this example Prabhupada gives, when you switch off the switch for a fan, the fan still rotates for a while. So, it is residual karma, residual motion available, but there is no electricity. So it's not karma in one sense, but it is some residue left that it is rotating. In the same sense, so probably he falls down and then it's almost like a springboard. Your springboard in the swimming pool, you go down and then jump high. So it comes to Vritrasura and then gets liberated. So these are the unique ways. Although that karma and that karmic birth, if it was so, did not affect his consciousness. Make sense? Gajendra, take the example of Gajendra. He was born as an elephant. Is it not? But what did he do? What did he do when he was about to die? What did he say? How did he offer? So anta sarasi urubalena grihita arto drishtva garutmati harimkha upatta chakram utkshipya shambhujakaram giramaha krichran. Krichran means he's in such great difficulty. Imagine he's fought for thousands of years, he's bleeding, he's in pain, and when he sees the Lord, what did he do? He picked up a flower and he's offering to the Lord. So his consciousness is so pure even when he's krichran. Krichran means he's so much in pain. And when we are in so much pain, what will we do when we see the Lord? Lord, please help me. Why you are doing like this to me? I'm such a great devotee. You see, you are not helping me. This is what many Mishra devotees. So difference between unalloyed and alloyed devotion means their unalloyed devotion does not stop even if the devotee is in difficulty. Gajendra is offering, he's saying, Narayanakhila Guru Bhagavan Namaste. He's still offering his obeisances even in that pain. So that is the understanding. Make sense? Thank you. Yes, Shavya.
So the question is, why is Krishna saying abandon all religion? I'll take you back home, back to God. And like that's a sin, abandoning all religion.
Yep. you have to understand it in perspective. Abandon, you have to understand it in totality. The question is, can you say that in the mic?
Yeah. So, in the Sarva Dharman Parityajya, it says abandon all religion and surrender unto me. But why does Krishna say abandon all religion, like when that's a sin?
Many times, so what is the whole translation? Take the whole translation in picture. Abandon all varieties of religion and surrender unto me. So that is the main point. The main point is surrender. Abandoning has to be done with the perspective of surrender. Make sense? So abandoning means taking surrender or shelter of Krishna. Does it make sense? That is the main point to be taken. Abandoning means do not take shelter of these religions. Take shelter of Krishna. That is the crux of that verse. Is it not? How do we understand that? We understand that because Arjuna picked up his bow and followed the Kshatriya Dharma after the Gita. Is it not? That is what Krishna wanted him to do. Because Arjuna wanted to go to the forest. I will go and meditate. But Krishna said, no, pick up your arms and fight. So if you understand the verse in totality, in perspective, Krishna wants him to do his activity, but with total surrender to Krishna. Because before that, Arjuna was surrendered to his mind. He was surrendered to his Kshatriya Dharma. He was saying, I don't want the kingdom. I don't want to become a king. Krishna is saying, hey, why do you think you will become a king? You might be killed in the war also. So the whole point was you surrender to me and fight on my instructions. So the point is to come to the point of surrender to Krishna. Many people just say abandoning religion. So I'll abandon everything. Surrender to hua hi nahi hai. Make sense? Yes, complete surrender of Krishna. If we are in a state of complete surrender of Krishna, then you can abandon. If one is in that state of consciousness. But for Arjuna, Krishna says, if you now abandon, the very next moment you will fight. Because his nature is to fight. So your nature is not ready for that abandonment yet. Otherwise it will be called as Phalgu Vairagya. So for Arjuna, it is important that you take shelter of me and do your duty. That is also abandonment. Abandoning means abandoning the shelter of these religions, but taking complete shelter of Krishna. I had this doubt, so I got this clarification from Mukunda Datta Prabhu. I had asked him how to understand this, because it looks like Arjuna did not abandon. He picked up his bow and he fought. So how do you understand the contradictory action? Then Prabhu said that this is how you have to understand it, that abandoning means abandon the shelter of those religions. Don't take shelter of Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Take shelter of Krishna all the time while you execute your duties. Make sense?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Grantaraj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrind ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Yes, sir.